Hey, oh, beep, beep, boop, boop. Why does it always have to be a hey? Greetings, programs. Hankerin here. Dungeons and Dragons, welcome back for another awesome episode. How to play D&D like a big old badass. That's right. That is what we're doing around here. That's what you're gonna do because you're awesome. I didn't even clean up my mess. I'm just sitting in it. I'm just soaking in my own dirt right now. Homebrew. Do what you want to do. I'm just going to jump right into this. There have been a lot of side convos going on Facebook about all kinds of cool topics. How do I do this? What should I do next? I got myself in a hole. I got myself in a rut. I'm up on a mountaintop. I'm down lower in a but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What's the video about? This is about doing homebrew. Alright, you guys know about homebrew. That's game modding, hacking, whatever you want to call it, custom gaming. Now the tabletop elite, the RPG gloaters out there would like to have you think that making homebrew tabletop RPGs and rules systems is the purview of the intellectual Illuminati or the old weirdos who've been playing D&D for ages, or the too awesome for your sawsome types who have to have artisanal herp-a-derp to be satisfied. None of that is true. If you want to get into homebrew, all you need is the fundamentals and the basics, and trust me, almost all of you are probably already doing a homebrew version of 5th edition or D&D in some form, and you barely even know you're doing it. As a matter of fact, I would argue that homebrew, house rules, game mods and hacks are more so the purview of the beginner than they are of the veteran, and we're going to talk about why that is true and how you can use it to your advantage with the double up.
True.
First of all, why? Why is there homebrew? Why is there modding at all, right? I mean, WotC is awesome. There's like a zillion super smart people working around the clock to make the best possible RPG for you. There's like 3,000 Pathfinder books out there, which are all jam-packed with cool stuff. And there's a few pretty decent D&D books, the Monster Manual being the best of them. Player's Handbook's pretty decent if you're a player. So what hope could you possibly have of improving this edifice of creative wonder? Well, you're probably already doing it and didn't even mean to get started. Ooh, nice. Got a 9 on a 1d12. A fundamental principle that leads a dungeon master and his players as a collaborative group to do homebrew is what I like to call the appetite for detail. Now, there's two sides to the appetite for detail, and we're going to represent those two sides with Salag and with this dragon right here. Salag will represent those who have a higher appetite for detail in their game. This is generally occupied by a group of people who are old and weird, who've been playing D&D a ton, who've been there, done that, seen it all, and now they want more out of it. They want more detail. They want the mechanics to be more challenging. They want the character progression to be more detailed. They want the game to perfectly manifest the creative vision of their brand new dwarf, cleric, fighter, hybrid, druid, dual class. That's Salag the Devourer. He represents the old weirdos who have a high appetite for detail. They want more detail in the game. That's why they're playing Burning Wheel, because they crazy like that. On the other side, you have a far larger group represented by Argloasa, the black dragon here. Technically a shadow dragon if you really want to be a jerk about it. This is normal people. They have a lighter appetite for detail than is provided in the game. Have you ever looked in an RPG book like Pathfinder Monster Codex, or what is this one? 5th edition Monster Manual, right? You look into the book and you're kind of glazing over about halfway through. You're just like, what are they saying about all this stuff? Honestly, I stopped paying attention in the B's, and I'm now into the F's. I can't even remember what happened in the D's, right? This is a much more normal reaction to the amount of detail offered in your average RPG. You can't, how am I supposed to take all this shit in? Especially as a dungeon master, where you're supposed to like know all this shit because people are going to ask you questions. You have no idea what's happening. You get 10 pages into the DM's guide and you just glaze over and wander off and wind up like in your backyard making dirt pies. The thing with dirt in there and some water and bang, you're done. But with RPGs, no, there's more than dirt and water. There's all this other shit. And especially just taking it in, like, I'm gonna learn this now. No, it doesn't work. It's overwhelming. And so what you get is an appetite for less detail. You wanna sit down at the table, you wanna get drunk with your homies and talk about dwarves and shit, but you don't wanna be overwhelmed with all this incredible edifice of player progression mechanics, XP detailed mechanics, how to award gold, how to enforce rest, how to prevent overpowering, how to prevent min-maxing, how to encourage good role-playing, how to use inspiration, how to pace character progression, how to tune monster difficulty. Oh my god! You don't want even more detail, you just want just enough to get through it and not look like a doof. You're in the big group, my friend. And this doesn't mean you're a conformist, this means you're one of us. One of us. You're one of the normal folks who wants to play D&D and have fun. Now these people with the appetite for more detail, they're awesome too, don't get me wrong. If you get in a group with a rigorous DM who knows his shit, and each player is doing as much homework as the DM is to work on their character and give it complex mechanical detail, and they're good at it at the table, and it's quick and it's fast and it's fun, oh my god, you guys are gonna have some cool adventures. You're not those people. You're these guys. You're a normal person with a normal day job, and you need to get an adventure pulled together in an hour before your friends show up. You don't even have the Doritos yet, like you're a mess. So what you want is all the same game richness that these guys get, but with a slicker, simpler game. And right away, the first night you play, you will be homebrewing. All right, so that is where the desire for homebrew comes from. I'm here for this group. These are my peoples right here. Woo! Let's simplify this insane game. I'm trying to absorb this shit, have fun with my friends. I'm freaking out, man. Any question you ask at the game table about the game that you can't answer in a few seconds, you need homebrew. It's that intense. So if you are wondering how to blah, and you can't just pop it right off the top of your head, or maybe you have it marked with a post-it note in your book because you're still kind of remembering where things are in your book or whatever. You can pop it open and say, oh yeah, longsword does 1d8 damage, right? If you can't get those fast answers, you need a way to get a fast answer, my man. My woman, could be either one. That's your cue to think about a house rule, okay? So I want to go through some pretty common ones that can get you started. And these just come from the annals, the scads of messages that I've been getting from people. I don't know what about this month. This month is crazy. A lot of people are playing right now. And a lot of them are just starting direct conversations with me. Which, by the way, please log on to Drunkards and Dragons on Facebook and send me a PM. Let's open the dialogue. Let's talk about your specific campaign and your specific challenges. And let's just get it going. It's my favorite way to talk D&D with everybody, is like literally directly one-on-one. It's awesome. Let's make your game awesome in its own right. But anyways, the annals of all those conversations have given me this sense for like common areas that people really need homebrew, because they directly ask me, you know, like, how do I blah with blah? Like, do you have a sort of an offhand rule? Offhand rules and sort of ideas for techniques, that's homebrew, man. That's modding, that's hacking. It is not the purview of the elite or the master game designer. No. It's just like you're playing blackjack and you just make a rule. Whenever the Queen of Diamonds comes up, everybody has to drink. There, you just made a homebrew game. Number 1, XP. Experience. That's right. XP is not easy to figure out. It's bad enough that the level thresholds on the characters are these weirdo numbers like 38,350 or some crap. Why didn't they just make it 40K? Just make it simple. Well, there would be a home rule right there. So, but anyways, also the values of monsters. What do I get for killing a monster? Oh shit, I forgot to divide it up for the number of people in the party. Or, oh man, I used the XP value from this way higher level monster and I totally over rewarded them. Or, I completely forgot they killed all those kobolds. Those are worth like 400 each. I didn't award, they should have gotten like 16k out of that thing, right? These are all really common problems. So you accidentally over level your characters, really common. Or you just don't see it and you're getting the skimpy XP rewards and like 4 sessions later they're still level 2 and they're like, dude, we hate you. You are a guy or girl who needs a homebrew XP rule if this stuff is happening to you. Here's your XP rule. When you're jotting down your night in your journal, because you do that, because you're awesome, you're just like, okay, we're going to do these 3 rooms. We're going to do the green cauldron. We're going to do escape from the black tunnel and jumping through the swamp cave of Mardak. Okay. First room is worth 2,000 XP. It's going to be worth 3,000 XP if they save the princess. Second room is worth 4,000 XP just for surviving. Third room, if they kill everything in there, it's worth 3,000 XP. If they just get through on their own, it's worth 1,000. There you go. You're done. What do those numbers have to do with anything? It doesn't matter. Just start trying the flat XP system. If even what I just mentioned is too complicated, because maybe at the end of the night you're going to be a little woo, right? Just say, hey, tonight is Night of the Swamp, and it's worth 6,000 XP, and there's 1,000 XP for favorite player of the night. Let the players decide who the best player of the night was, and she gets the bonus 1,000 XP. There you go. Even simpler. DM, rather than try to smite understanding upon people, watch what happens. So if you give out 1,000 XP, split 5 ways. Are people excited? Probably not very excited. If you give out 10,000 XP, split 5 ways, it's probably going to get a little more excited, right? If you give out 50,000, you're probably thinking to yourself, this is way too much XP. That sounds like a ton of XP. You're probably right. 10k XP per person is a lot. How much is it? I don't know. Depends what level they're at. Could be a ton, could be minimal. I still don't know. I've been playing this shit forever. I still don't have an easy command of how much XP equals how much progression. But what I do have a sense of is where people tend to get excited. And it's between sort of 1 and 3,000 for one person for a night of gameplay. I don't know why that is. It's just a sort of a rule. So I've already greatly simplified it. I kind of look at the XP values of the monsters, especially if they're really big, like, you know, milestone tentpole monsters. But generally, I kind of know about what the outcomes are going to be in the night. And when I'm looking at my DM's guide or my monster manual at the end of the night and we're giving out XP, yeah, I just go with what my instincts are and make sure everybody feels like they're rewarded appropriately. Just use a few sessions to feel it out. Give them a really low reward at one time, 100 XP for killing these wolves. And just watch their faces. Then give them 500. Just feel it, man. It's all good. Another great homebrew rule I highly recommend is player awarded XP. I've talked about this in another video. Put aside an amount. 1,000 is a great amount. 1,000 is just a pretty number. At the end of the night, the players get to decide who gets the bonus 1,000 XP. It'll be the biggest discussion of the night. They will love it. Do it. It's a kick-ass homebrew rule. Moving on to the next subject. It's tough, right? You don't know how much gold is worth what. You don't know how to keep people from being ridiculously rich or poor all the time. Just do the same system as you do with your XP. Pick something that feels good, 50 gold. Right? 3 or 4 times through the night, people get 50 gold. There you go. Let the game start to feel out how much that really is. So if your guys walk into town and they're 3rd level and they're just like buying up the town because you're kind of going out of the book of what prices are, then slow the roll on the gold. If they seem poor, then bump it a little bit. It's that easy. Feats, skills, abilities, and the whole just complex of character progression that can get very cumbersome. Like you get proficiency bonuses that are scaling and people are getting new skills and they can't do, oh God. Another thing you can do, compress all modifiers into a single number. So anytime I'm rolling on my skills, I just use my freaking strength bonus. Anytime I'm rolling on all my dex skills, I just use my dex bonus. Just remove the proficiency bonus, remove skill bonuses, just stick to the stats. The stats will increase as you go over level. That's another example. I actually don't do bonuses except in very rare situations. It pulls all that out of there. The only kind of feats and skills you can do are ones that don't use rolls, and like you can really compress the game this way. Another one is to get rid of like range modifiers. Who cares anyways? Another one is to get rid of any kind of melee modifiers and stuff. You're just rolling against a common DC. Another huge one could be to remove armor class. Think about that. You just make the armor class of all of your enemies what the room armor class is. Another one could be switching armor class from a 2-hit number, if that's a big pain in your butt, to a damage reducer. So average tank has armor of 3, and every piece of damage that's done to him, he subtracts 3. That way, all your attack rolls are against the same number, which is probably your room number. Now, I'm moving through these really fast, but I'm sure you guys are keeping up because the questions you're asking me on Facebook are not clueless questions like, what is role-playing? No, they're much more like, how do I tune this system so it's more fun in my game? So, I think my point is, don't necessarily do any one thing that I'm telling you. Feel free to just chunk up your game and pull chunks out. The chunks will return. Just mess it up and make a mess. Honestly, the game really comes down to, give me a number. I'll beat it on a d20. Boom. You did it. That is really the fundamental essence of the game. And it can get more interesting when you're like, okay, I bet I can roll higher than you. Oh yeah? What do you want to bet? I'll bet you your sword. If I roll higher than you on d20, I get your sword. And like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now that's a game. Homebrew. Homebrew. How else do you make homebrew awesome? What are the other areas? So XP, man. Hack the XP. Make it simple. Gold, skills, feats, all the things that seem overly complex, they probably are overly complex. Just come up with your own version, boil it way down, everybody will love it. Then as you get better at the game, introduce the stuff, say, okay, now that you're 3rd level, everybody can totally go out of the book, unleash. Another one is probably like monster difficulty and monster stats. Okay, so you're looking at your night, you're getting ready, you've got 3 rooms, you got maybe 4 different kinds of monsters involved, and before you even get out of the journal entries, there's too much detail in all the monsters. It's just they have too many abilities, their challenge rating, their hit dice, the gold value, their XP value, then the abilities and multi-attack, and oh dear God, do I really need to have my monster manual at the table with all these pages marked? Nope, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Just write down Umber Hulk, give him 60 hit points, and he has a claw attack, and he has the dizzying gaze. You can kind of look up the stats, write them down. You're done. Very simple. This way you can run 2 or 3 of a monster and it's super simple. Now you don't want to make things so simple that they all just become pylons with 50 hit points. That's not cool. But you'll know as you look through the monsters which parts make them clever and fun and different. Which parts are important, and then all this other stat blocky stuff. Now if players are like asking about the lore about a monster, for sure, then open up your book, tell them the cool lore that's included if they make the roll or something. Great. But just don't worry about it. If they seem too hard, nerf them a little bit. If it seems too weak, twink them up a little bit. And twink them in simple ways. So if you get that introductory exchange and you're like, oh my God, they're going to kill my Umber Hulks in like 10 seconds. This is terrible. Just buff their hit points on your sheet. And sometimes I'll even tell the players. I'll be like, hey you guys, I'm nerfing this purple worm because this is a little crazy. So we're going to call it, it's sort of a stunted runt as you look closer at it. This isn't a full-size one. So I just want you to know I'm like nerfing the hit points just a little bit right now. And you don't have to tell them exactly what the hit points are because that surprise can be fun. But it's an on-the-spot homebrew hack. And you're not like ashamed of it. You're just telling your players like, hey guys, I'm hacking right now. I think this thing is just overdone. I'm gonna nerf this sucker. Okay, so monster difficulty. Just write your monsters in your own way that feels good for your campaign. All right, next one's, now you guys know how I feel about all this stuff. Timing, rest, pacing. There's almost nothing in the book, any book, for any system, except maybe Mouse Guard, about how to pace, how people move around the world and rest. The players always want to be rested and they want all their shit all the time. It's up to you to figure out ways not to let that be, because the game it's impossible to ever beat them. Now you know my techniques here. Control rest with a terrible vengeance, right? Use the gritty variation in the DMG. 8 hours for a short, 8 days for a long. And don't use sleeping, use safety. They have to be out of harm to get any kind of rest going. Another one is to use time. Start the session. Say, you walk into the cavern. There are glowing mushrooms everywhere. Blood is dripping from a huge iron spike in the center of the room, but there's no motion. But then a shadow stirs. Roll initiative. Okay, you're going first. In 1d4 rounds, something terrible will happen. What do? There you go. That whole little sequence is pretty much 100% homebrew. The book does not tell you to do any of that shit, but that's a really fun way to kick the game off. Everybody understands there's a time limit. Everybody wants to go and do things. If you're the DM who just leans back and says, the world is yours, what are you guys going to do now? I'll be here as your story facilitator. Nothing will happen. But that's almost how they make it sound in the books. So homebrew your pace. Just lock it down. The players will love it. I know there's this weird kind of thing like, some people think D&D is a board game. It's not a board game, it's an RPG. It's a freaking board game. And actually people love board games. So when you bring in mechanics that are really simple and role driven and out in the open, they love it. They know what they're dealing with. And yes, it makes it more like a board game, and that's okay. That's what homebrewing is all about. The area I think that is great to do homebrew is flavor. A lot of you guys, I know this because you tell me you have fascinating settings in your campaigns. They're crazy awesome. They have odd combinations of creative concepts like genre mashups. They have weirdly specific tribute moments or themes like, frozen vampire apocalypse, or, like a world of only halflings with one man. In these cases where your setting is extremely specific and extremely awesome, you might want to homebrew one or two tasty little details that give it reality. Okay, let's take the second example, a world of halflings with only one human being. That human being is probably in your adventure group. So what you need is one tasty little mechanic that can constantly remind everybody this is a halfling world. And that's probably going to be something like a sort of a scurry value. The great thing about halflings is that they're so small and they can scurry around and stuff. Actually, no, let's flip it. The mechanic in our homebrew goes toward the human, and it's a clunking mechanic. So in a world of halflings, the human is way oversized. So every action that the human takes where he moves, he needs to roll a 1d6. On a 1, he bumps into things, and it will sort of cancel out part of his action. Yeah, brutal, right? So what they're going to be doing is looking for outdoor areas. And when they're confined, he's just too damn big. And you're like, well, what the hell, dude? You nerfed my character. No, dude, you're the only human in a halfling world. You're like a giant. This is not a nerf. This is me trying to keep it under control. But it doesn't matter. It is a fun, randomized mechanic that reminds you constantly what the flavor of your world is. Something in Dark Sun could be like a water mechanic, like finding water. So every day of adventuring in a Dark Sun campaign, just roll a 1d6. On a 1, there's no water to be found, and like you either detriment their rest or do them a little bit of damage. So this is kind of like in my Caves of Corrosion. There's constant rust happening. And it's just a made up rule. Like your equipment, all of it that's metal, is decaying constantly at a variable rate that's randomized by an exciting roll. That just flavor for your world, because I know you guys are awesome at this part. You visualize these fantastic campaign worlds, but then when it comes time to building a mechanic confidently or just making a hacky ass homebrew call on the spot, that feels a little more intimidating, right? I guess the purpose of the video is here's a bunch of garbagey examples that should give you more confidence to just make those calls either on the spot or ahead of time when you're working in your book. Whew! Inspiration. Now, if you're playing 5e, like me, inspiration is crucial, right? Because instead of giving bonuses or other forms of boons, you just give inspiration. Now, you know my game. I hand out red banners, and I hand them out to an individual upon a moment of fantastic play. So if a person self-sacrifices or, role plays a fuck yeah moment, or goes, heavy metal on it, or finally does the smart thing instead of everybody acting dumb, or really gets in there and saves the NPC instead of just burning them, stuff like this, then I go doot 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 doot, and I give them their little banner. Here you go, you have inspiration. And then when they want to use the inspiration for a double D20 roll, they hand the banner back to me and I put it back on the shelf. I also let them use inspiration on each other. The party will give their inspiration banners to that player. Then he goes for this big important role, and it's a great teamwork moment. Another homebrew version could be if you end a session with inspiration, you just get 500 XP to turn in the banner. All this stuff is not in the book. None of this stuff is anything like that. In the book, it's just give inspiration to players who do cool things, right? And that's great. Another thing you do is group inspiration. So you can have a mega banner. The whole group has inspiration. So for one round, everybody's inspired. It's another cool thing to do. Whatever fits your game. If your players are vampires, if they drink a corpse dry, give them inspiration because they've got that, they got the cha-cha-cha. Have a world where all Warhammers do 1d12 damage. If you think Warhammers are that cool. Fuck it, just go for it. Do that homebrew. Homebrew, do what you want to do. That's about all I got for tonight. A pretty flimsy video, but I mainly just I've been doing a lot of it myself, working on a homebrew, because my campaign is about to come back with a vengeance. The kings of hell will walk the surface of Toril, and it will be epic as shit. So I'm pulling that together. Look to hear about that in coming videos, and that's about it, guys. So good luck as you ride the tsunami of interest in D&D right now. Stay uncool, be yourself, don't believe the hype, and keep rocking on. Homebrew, do what you want to do, alright? Hankerin Furnail, signing off. Out across the ocean. Out across the sea. Bodhi is all around us. He's inside of me. Coin, also known as a 1d2. Gotta be wondering at this point why you watch this shit.